Let's start a podcast about our mental health for no good reason why. Let's call it Mind Cake.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another slice of Mind Cake
Mind Cake
with him,
Lee Crompton, and him.
Paul Beeson.
That was almost first time.
Second time.
Mm.
How are you?
I'm good. Just before we started, well, I'm not good actually, but apologies to our listeners if there is any on the recording, but I have left my phone on.
And you always tell me off for that.
Yes. However, I may be expecting a phone call from the doctors.
Oh, okay.
Which I don't want to miss.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, I've had lots of tingling and numbness in my fingers and extremities and my lips and achy muscles, and really been not in a good way. So I've been quite worried, listeners. And I've had it for a couple of weeks. Rang the doctors yesterday and they said, well, it might be to do with your thyroid levels or calcium levels. So when I had my thyroid operation, there's 4 calcium nodes in there as well. I think I said before in the other episode that they basically took everything that they could take out. They did take out. So there's always been a bit of a don't I have a calcium supplement. And if you are calcium deficient, that can cause pins and needles and heart algorithms. Is that algorithms? Is that the right word? No, that's not right.
That's like an equation or something, isn't it?
There's like Facebook. Is that algorithms? Heart problems anyway. And
a palpitation, is that what you're thinking?
You can get misbeats or whatever. I don't know what it is. Anyway, but no,
arrhythmia.
That sounds better than algorithms. I dropped out of A-level maths, by the way, for obvious reasons. So they could get me in for a blood test. They do a blood test, but they can get me in next Friday. So I'm like, well, I'm not waiting over another week. I'm actually quite concerned about this because I'm having sort of chest pains as well. So I rang the oncologist and they got me straight into the Royal in Glasgow yesterday, had a blood test, marked urgent, got the results back literally this morning within, 12 hours.
Mm-hmm.
They've gone, no, your bloods are fine.
All right.
And I was kind of hoping it was calcium because then they go, well, yeah, just take more calcium tablets and that'll sort it. So I don't know what it is. Hence, I've rung the doctor back this morning and you can't obviously see them because it's still COVID. I don't know why you can't see them. Used to be able to just go in and see the doctor. But anyway, yeah, so I've got a telephone consultation, hence my phone is on. Sorry, that was a very long-winded way to say my phone is on, and apologies if you get any but if I have to go suddenly, that's why.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing. And sorry to hear that that's happening.
Can I tell you another reason why I'm telling you?
Yeah.
Because the reason I'd left it 2 weeks is because all this started, there is a link here, this started when I did my cold water therapy. So it was when I was at the retreat and was doing all the plunging in the waterfalls and I thought, oh, it's just cold. It'll go away. And it hasn't.
I see.
So I don't know whether it is linked to that. And I've somehow, I don't know, it's pure conjecture, whether I've damaged nerves but it seems to be sort of, I say, muscle in my arms and my muscles, and just something's not right, Paul.
Okay.
So don't go, if you've got 3 plunge pools, don't go into any of them. I've only got 2, by the way. I'm still waiting for the 3rd one. How are you?
I'm all right.
in comparison.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to complain about my sore neck, but I don't think I'll bother now.
The listeners are interested.
No, I've just got a bit of a pain in the neck, Lee, and it's not you.
Did it start about 6 minutes ago?
It feels almost like I've trapped a nerve or something like that. So when I move, get this like shooting pain in my neck and sort of into my back. So it's just a little bit weird. So I don't know if I've maybe just slept funny or something. But
well, I'm very sorry to hear that, Paul, and I hope that clears up very soon because that doesn't sound very pleasant at all. Meanwhile, in other news, no word on Arthur Bostrom yet.
Arthur, where are you?
He's on the eggnog. I kept saying that. I'm going to keep saying it until he comes on. He loves the nog.
He's in a nog fog and he's not answering his calls.
He's in a nog fog. Oh, you're good. But we do have our first celebrity listener,
Get out of town.
and I'm going to play the clip. And it's been out there on social media, and
Mm-hmm.
people have been guessing who it is.
And we'll go through some of those guesses.
We will go through some of those guesses. But anyway, for the benefit of the listeners who haven't seen on social media, here is our celebrity endorsement.
Now, I'm here to give a short mention to a wonderful podcast called Mind Cake Podcasts. It's presented by Lee Compton, and it deals with sort of various aspects of mental health, which is obviously such an important issue these days. And I urge you all to listen to it, whether you suffer from mental health yourself or you know somebody who does. All the best.
So we'll find out who that was a little bit later on. But now let's talk about bees. Yes. So I won't spoil the interview by how I know Charlotte or came across Charlotte, but suffice to say, I thought that I was booking her in to speak to because she's a very busy lady, a couple of months' time, and to talk about bees. And then she got a cancellation in her diary, and the interview it's not an interview, a chat was had almost immediately. And I think out of the 40 minutes you're about to listen to, 5, maybe 10 max minutes is about bees.
Yeah, the chat goes off on a tangent in a very interesting and relevant way, but it's certainly not the chat that I was expecting.
Nor me.
So it was a bit of a hidden surprise. Well, especially to you, it being in the room chatting to her. So, but it's fascinating. Yeah, it was just a really interesting conversation that you guys had.
Let's get straight into it, and then we can discuss afterwards.
Lovely. Can't wait to hear it again.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Mind Cake. Now, this week, we have a special guest, Charlotte Blackler. Now, I don't quite know how to introduce you, Charlotte, because I know you as the bee lady. You are a beekeeper, a farmer, herbologist, and scientist.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can make an anagram of that, but I might have to think of an anagram.
Think of an anagram with all those, yeah. So there's a lot to unpick there already before we've even started.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. It's very interesting. I think I'll start by saying how I came to know you, and then I'll throw it over to you in terms of how you kind of got there, or one facet of how you got to where you are. So my mum saw a program on the BBC, would it be?
Yes, BBC Two. Tom Kerridge, was it?
The Tom Kerridge one, where he was at Monachyle Mhor.
Yes, Monachyle Mhor. They did a hospitality series this year, this autumn. Yeah, and Monachyle Mhor were part of that.
Which included bees.
Yes. So Monachyle Mhor were very good at installing my Apipod for me. I had a little passion project, which was to make a little bee therapy pod so that people could experience the wonderful benefits of being close to a beehive and everything bees can offer. And Monachyle Mhor is just the perfect setting for that, because it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's in a beautiful glen. You've got the loch, you've got the hills, and it's very untouched and uncultivated. So it just did a natural therapy. That was a natural spot and a half to have it.
Brilliant. Okay, but before you got to that, how did your paths cross with Monachyle Mhor?
Okay, well, that was due to the pigs. So my first business was to make natural meat. That's my passion project. So my absolute joy. I started. Oh, you see, you've got to start at the beginning now. This is what happens.
Start at the beginning. Yeah.
So I started my working life in the pharmaceutical industry, and I used to sell drugs to doctors, and got quite disillusioned quite quickly that all the conditions that I was selling drugs for, whether that was diabetes or depression or heart conditions, were so easily controlled with diet, but diet was never on the agenda. We always went straight to prescription drugs. And I just thought that was just crazy, because people aren't then in control of their own destinies, and they could so easily be control of their conditions if they actually managed to change their diets. So going on from pharmaceuticals, when we moved to Scotland from Devon, we were lucky enough to have a couple of acres, and I managed to get a few more acres round about the house that I could borrow and rent. And I started raising livestock for my own children, really, because I had a friend who is a homeopath, and she had a 7-year-old girl in who actually had a full chest. And her mother said, is it a hormone imbalance? Is there something wrong with her? What do we look at? So they started with diet, and all the girl was eating. She was a very fussy eater. She was just eating supermarket chicken. And my friend said, look, I'm just going to put my pen down here and tell you there are probably enough female hormones in supermarket chicken to do this to your daughter if that's all she's eating. And I have a rugby playing son who at 16 years old would have loved his own pair of boobs. But I just thought, well, you know what, mummy's just going to put pay to that one right now, and we'll grow our own chicken. Thank you very much. So that's where it started. So I started with for the family, and we needed some sheep to keep the grass down. And we did Christmas turkeys, all using the medicinal properties of herbs. Because I went from pharmaceuticals knowing that there were so many plants, and so many of the pharmaceuticals we were using were plant derivatives, that if you went back to basics and used the actual plants in the first place, then you could do the same jobs. They're not as concentrated as what the pharmaceutical industry have made them into, but by the same token, they don't have all the caking agents and stabilizers and coatings and all the rest of it, and they're not highly processed. So I went back to basics, and the turkeys turned out to be the most tasty and beautiful succulent birds we'd ever had. And the pigs were the next stage from the turkeys, because if you're going to have a really beautiful turkey, then you want really beautiful sausages and mincemeat and stuff to go with them for the big Christmas day. So sort of one led on to the other. And that was a very long way of telling you how I ended up with pigs at Monachyle Mhor, wasn't it?
No, absolutely. So I'm just going to jump in there. So tell me what happened with the pig, Charlotte.
I was raising beautiful large black pigs because they have a lovely long back and long carcass. And I really wanted to cross them with a Mangalitsa pig, which is a pig that's the curly, woolly kind of pig.
Yes.
That was raised for the Hungarian royal family, because the flavour is absolutely beautiful. So I wanted the beautiful carcass, and I wanted the beautiful flavour for my special herb grazed pigs. And if you're an organic farmer, you're a bit precious about your pigs. So I wasn't getting anywhere with anybody wanting to lend me their sire. Until I phoned Monachyle Mhor as a last-ditch attempt to find somebody, and explained everything, fully expecting them to go, oh, no, we can't do that. And bless their cotton socks, as they do with most things, they went, blooming brilliant idea. Bring our girls up. That's fantastic. They can come and live in our woods and it'll be magic. So that's what happened. So the girls arrived for their romantic stay up at Monachyle Mhor in the hills, in the woods. And then COVID happened. So we all got locked down. And we had to leave the girls there because it wasn't essential travel really to bring pigs around. And we left them there, and COVID continued and continued and continued. So piglets were born, piglets were raised, piglets went to slaughter. And all the time, the boys had to feed my girls as I was feeding them. And they get fed a cheese whey from the local cheesemakers that has a live bacterial culture in it. So that was fantastic for their gut. So it's like a Yakult for pigs. It also had a beautiful, creamy, tender meat. But it was important that they had that bacteria in their gut, because that was making them more robust in their immune system and able to live outdoors all years, which was what was important to me. So they had to be hauling cheese whey around. They had to go and collect all the apple pulp from the community orchard. They had to go and collect all the distillery mash from the whiskey makers, all for my pigs, which was very good of them, because it's quite hard work. And unbeknownst to me, when they came back from slaughter, the chefs at the hotel did a blind taste testing between my pork and their own pork that they raise, because it's on the same pasture. It should be absolutely, you shouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Not much between them, shouldn't it?
No, you wouldn't have thought so, because they'd had the same breeding. Well, their girls were different breeding, but it shouldn't have made that much of a difference. Anyway, I had a phone call to tell me that my pork was better than theirs, and they weren't too impressed with that. So they were going to cut me a deal. And if I would like to keep my girls in their woodlands and their beautiful mountainous pastures, then they would like to be able to feed their girls all the same kind of ingredients that I was feeding my girls.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I bit their hand off because it's blooming hard work raising pigs. I was carrying litres of cheese whey every day and it was absolutely killing me. So I was delighted with that. So that's how I ended up knowing Monachyle Mhor. It was the pigs.
It was the pigs.
Yeah, and it's been a great working relationship. You know, we get on fine. It's usually absolute chaos, but they're great entrepreneurs in as much as they embrace every good opportunity that comes along.
Mm-hmm.
When they were invited to be on the Tom Kerridge series for hospitality, I'd already floated the idea of having an Apipod up there after a trip to Slovenia, where I saw these bee houses in operation, and I desperately wanted one. And I thought it would just be the most perfect setting for a natural therapy in a natural setting, rather than it's not something you can put into a spa that's an all chrome, shiny kind of swimming pool kind of spa thing. It's a very natural therapy. You're getting as close as you can to nature. So being out there was just absolutely perfect for it.
And then it was featured on the episode. Was it the bees? Well, presumably because my mum saw it. Yeah.
Yes, it's on iPlayer. You'll have to go and have a look.
I'm going to iPlayer. I'm going to write that down. But
it's one of the last ones.
I'll put it on my. I don't know if you've listened to the previous episodes, but we're generating to-do lists, me and Paul. So I should put that on my to-do list. So the bees came after the pigs, and I have looked at this briefly. And it appears that the bee therapy derives from Slovenia, Slovakia, Eastern European.
I think Eastern European countries are very much into their bees than we are. Most farms will have hives, and honey is a big thing. And I was lucky enough to go on an Erasmus course, which unfortunately we no longer have in this country after we left the European Union. But at that time, I was able to go and see nature tourism in action. And this area of Slovenia that we went to, they've realized that if they actually let the natural area, like it's a whole, what we would call a glen, it's part of their national park, they've not grazed it and they've not cultivated it. They've let all the wildflowers come through. And they are now finding that they have so many visitors that they earn so much more on their Airbnbs and running restaurants than they do raising livestock. So it's a bit of a win-win because nature gets to thrive and flourish, and you know, rural communities can make a bit more of a sustainable living. So nature tourism for them has been a wonderful thing, and that's what I was there to see as a rural business with a livestock business using wild herbs and plants. So it was fantastic for me to see how, if you can just do it as a collective, like all the farmers had to agree to it. They spent quite a lot of time getting every farm to agree to come into this system. And once they had all bought into the idea, they soon realized just how beneficial it was. So that's what we went to see. And those farms often have bees, more often than not have bees. And I'd been seeing on YouTube and stuff like that for a couple of years previous to that bee therapy is quite a big thing. So the air that a hive produces is going to be a collection of wax, nectar, honey, all these beautiful smells. And propolis is something that's a bee resin that's in a hive. I don't know how much you know about beekeeping.
I know nothing about beekeeping, so I'm intrigued. Tell me more. Tell me everything.
So propolis is like a hard resinous substance that the bees use to block up all the gaps and the drafts in the hive. And they take that from like the sticky sap of buds of trees like horse chestnut and things like that when in the springtime. But it's exceptionally antiseptic and antiviral. So they've started using it in dentistry and things like this as a natural way of, you know, mouthwashes and things like that. So that the aerosols from a hive, because a hive is quite warm, so the aerosols that come off a hive can be really beneficial for people with respiratory conditions because you've got this antiseptic and antiviral element to the bees, the hive air, as we call it, and asthmatics and people like that. So after COVID, after all those chest infections and coughs and all the rest of it, it was really beneficial to have people. Well, the people that I saw online, they were basically plugged into the hive, like with like a Hoover tube and an oxygen mask, and they were plugged right into the hive, and they sat there just breathing the hive. And I thought, I'm not sure I can convince people to do that in our neck of the
in the UK,
yeah. But the alternative is to just have a sleeping platform that lies directly over, say, like 3 beehives. So the bees are directly beneath you.
Beneath you, right? Okay.
So all the you can cut vents into those sleeping platforms, so all the air can sort of come up around you, and you get to inhale it, not as intensely. So it's really as the sort of the respiratory therapy per se, but you just do get the benefits of being in that atmosphere of the beautiful smell of being in warm honey, and you get the sound of the bees, and you also get the micro vibrations. You can't really feel it. If you put your hand on it, it just feels like your hand is tingling. So there's it's a tiny, tiny micro vibration, but that in itself is very relaxing. Apparently, I've consequently learned that the key that bees hum in is a key of C, and they're finding that's very useful for people suffering with PTSD because it helps to reset the nervous system.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's some benefits to spending time just lying down as close to bees as you possibly can get without getting stung. Because that's the thing of when you play with nature, invariably there are some pitfalls, but having an Apipod was the way that we could get people as close to nature and as close to the benefits of those bees without having to come directly in contact with them.
It's called an Apipod.
Yeah, I might have made that name up. I've been
Oh, okay. So don't Google it.
No, I don't think it comes up because several people have asked me now. And I spent a long time trying to think of the word, because api is bee. So Apis mellifera mellifera is the Scottish black bee. Apis mellifera is the honeybee. So api seemed like quite a reasonable thing. And then it was a pod. It was a glamping pod that we had that we converted. And it sounded like Happy Pod. And it was an Apipod.
An Apipod.
It was my nickname for it. And it kind of went down on all the sort of like all the marketing and stuff that we did. And I was just like, oh, I was going to think of a proper name for it. But hey, it's an Apipod. When it appeared in the newspapers and things, I was just like, oh, okay. I hope nobody else has got that name, because I think I might have just made it up.
You're going to need to trademark that.
Oh, maybe. So yeah.
So how many Apipods have you got?
Just the one at the minute.
Okay. And then the hives are underneath.
Yes. So there are 6 hives in our Apipod. Got 2 sleeping platforms. If you picture a triangular, I want to say wigwam, but it's not a wigwam. It's just one of those glamping pods that's a triangular one. We've got a sleeping bench on either side of that triangle. And I insert the beehives from the outside, so they slide in underneath the sleeping platforms on the inside. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, yeah. And so how long would you be in there? Be in there. How long would you...
No, honestly, yeah, you can just go on and on.
How many bee puns can you fit into?
Yes.
So how long would you lie in the pod?
40 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
The way we've set it up, we're not offering bee therapy per se. It's just an opportunity to spend time in relaxation or meditation or however you like to be as close to bees as possible, and just listen and just take that time out to listen to the birds, listen to the bees, just total chill out kind of time. So last year was the first year that we had the Apipod up and running with all the bees in it, and we will add other little pods. So we're hopeful that we can get a massage pod up and running in the little wooded glade that it's in this year. So once you've had your massage, you can then go and spend some time in the chill out zone of the Apipod afterwards and just really completely bliss out.
That sounds amazing.
Now we know how it works and just where the bees fly and what their flight paths are and things like that. So we know where we can position the other pod without filling it with bees when somebody's having a massage. I
don't know, well, you won't know, but I do write like sort of dark comedy on the side is my side gig. Okay. And just this conversation is as fascinating as it is, it's also giving me some great ideas for some for some a very relaxing retreat that goes horribly wrong. But no, me and my wife have vouchers, because I think I mentioned on the phone that I was 50 last month. So we have vouchers to come to Monachyle
Mhor. Fantastic.
And you were saying
loves you.
Somebody does love me. Well, it's my mum. So having seen the program that we can't think of the name of, so you're going to Google it now, aren't you?
I am going to Google it.
If you were Paul, I'd tell you off.
I should know it off the top of my head, but it's because you've asked me. I can't think of it. So you're 50. That's a terribly old age to be, isn't it?
It is a terribly old age to be. Yes.
She says about to turn 50 in 2 weeks.
2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about that?
Very, very lucky and very grateful. I never expected to get to 50. I never expected to get to 40. So I'm delighted that I've got this far, and I still have friends and family who are traveling up from Devon and all over the place to come and visit and be part of my celebration. So yes, it's waffle, but I've always considered that I probably wouldn't make it to 40. So getting to 50 was a real bonus.
So are you happy? Do you mind me asking about that on the podcast? You kind of hung that out there as a passing comment, because people are kind of amazed that I'm still knocking about. So if you didn't think you were going to make 40 and you're still here, there must be a story behind that.
Okay, all right, you can prize that out of me. So we've gone from pigs to mortality. We
haven't even got on to herbs yet.
No. So I come from the very shallow end of a gene pool on both my mother and my father's side. So my father died by the time he was 36, and my mum died by the time she was 42. I never expected, all the way through my childhood, I was absolutely convinced that I wouldn't actually get past 40. It just seemed it was quite an impossibility. So my father died from a hereditary condition, which he has passed on to me, which I have passed on to my daughter, which is a blood disorder where we don't produce enough of a certain enzyme that prevents swelling. So the condition is called HAE, hereditary angioedema, and it's pretty rare. And every time I get admitted to hospital with it, they say, "Oh, we've never seen one of you." I have to explain all again from the beginning what we need to do.
Yeah.
We don't have the enzyme that turns off swelling. So if you get, if you bash your hand and it begins to swell up and protect itself with the tissue fluid, we don't have the enzyme that switches off that process. So if we swell up anywhere above the shoulder, it's very close to our airway, and it can actually just be fatal. We can actually die from not being able to breathe. So unfortunately, my father did die from that when I was 3 years old, and my sister was 6 weeks old. So my mum was widowed at age 22, 23, I think. And then she spent the rest of her days mourning him, bringing up 2 little girls on her own. And she died from cancer when she was 42 and I was 19 years old. So we'd lost them both before we were 20. It was fairly careless. And just unfortunate. It's just
you can't make that. Again, we're making light of this. That's the thing you can do sometimes. Yes. Very careless. Very careless.
Very careless. So so to be 50, I'm absolutely over the moon and thrilled. And I'm health, touch wood, as far as I'm aware. Said this before, but I'm just very grateful for everything that's happened to me. And you'd think I would be maybe one of the grumpiest people about life, but I truly believe that you can choose how you see the world, and you can choose to be happy, and you can choose to be positive about your life. And I've made certain decisions in my life because I've had that childhood, and because I feel that life's a bit too precious to waste just sitting around not doing things, or not having relationships that you want, or not having friends, or not taking the risks and starting a business on your own and things like that. So it's made me embrace life a bit more than maybe, other folk do that haven't had a childhood like that. I'm sure that's part of it. And also, I could have chosen to be quite negative and resentful. I know people who have gone down that path when they've had instances like we had happen to us. But I just felt that was just such a waste. And you can choose how you respond to things. And I chose to be happy, and I chose to be grateful. And I think that served me very well throughout the whole of my adult life. I mean, it really is a choice. People say, he did this to me and it made me really cross. And it's just like, well, actually, you chose to be cross about that. You reverse into a bollard. Some people will get out and be really cross about that and be really fed up. And other people will get out and just laugh that they were such idiots that they reversed into a bollard. And I was, so we choose how we respond to all these things.
Absolutely.
So I went down the happy route.
I'm saying absolutely. I mean, I'm not. I think when we had a brief conversation on the phone before, I struggle, having gone through my diagnosis, that the world's a bit more shaky And I find it really uplifting speaking to people like you who've had an experience and then turned that experience into something really, really positive. I don't think, other than obviously this podcast, I don't think I'm there yet. I'm still, I think in filming, when you film at like an acute angle, I think it's called a Dutch angle in the biz, everything's just slightly off kilter because you realise that not only are you at risk, but I think I mentioned earlier that I've got my oncology appointment when in March, and that'll be 3.5 years after obviously being told I had 6 months, and you kind of feel in this limbo where, well, because they won't say that you're cured, but I haven't technically got cancer, so you're in this limbo period. But then you realise, people say, well, it's understandable that you're anxious because you've been told that news. Like, yes, but we're all in the same boat. Whether it's my cancer coming back, whether it's somebody else's cancer starting for the first time, whether it's someone getting hit by a bus when they cross the road to work, we're all kind of in the same boat. But if you haven't had that experience, it's not on your radar. And I would love to have that. I'd be interested to know, like you said, when you were 19 and your mother died, what was your path then? Were you in the scientist lane or going to go into the scientist lane?
Yeah. So I was in my final year of university and everyone expected me to drop out because I had a 16-year-old sister at home who was needing some care. And we were left the house, the car, the bills, the solicitors. I was just left as an adult and I wasn't quite ready to be an adult. But through my mum's illness, I had asked several times to come back from university and just care for her as she was getting to the end stages, and she refused to let me do that. And she just said, you're the first person to go to university in our family and you're not coming home to look after me. We'll be fine.
Wow.
You're just going. And she died. When I came home for the Christmas holidays, it was almost like because I'd come home, she could let go and she didn't have to fight so hard. And she was almost immediately taken into hospital when I arrived home for the Christmas break. And she died on Christmas Eve at 5 minutes to Christmas Day.
Wow.
And I was at university then, and I could have taken a year out, and all my lecturers said, don't come back. Please just take a year out and just, deal with everything at home. But the thing was, my mum hadn't let me come home. She had gone, and I knew all she wanted me to do was to get my degree and get finished. So at the end of the Christmas break, I went straight back to university because I felt that if I had taken that time out, I would never have gone back because I would have lost my friendship group, the house that I was in, all my best friends. And, I felt that I wouldn't ever go back. And so I just kept going forwards. And everyone did expect me to hit the floor. I had lovely friends who would turn up every afternoon just to pop in, just to say hi, because they were waiting for the meltdown and they were waiting for
anticipation.
And it didn't happen. And it was only years afterwards that they actually admitted they came round every day because they were just worried that it was going to fall to pieces. And I was just like, God, you're just such a lovely human being. And I hadn't even noticed. I just thought you were there for another cup of tea. It was fine.
Just thought I made a lovely cuppa, yeah.
Yeah. So that delayed my grieving, and that delayed me getting to a healthy place with it all, because I just packed a bag and I just got on the train and got back to university. And so I repressed it all. So when I say I made a happy choice, it wasn't instant. I wasn't, it took years and years. In my working life and in my personal life, I did a lot of yoga, which really helped me. And I was away in India with my yoga teacher, and he said I had to be grateful for everything that had happened to me in my life. And I hadn't processed anything by that stage. So I was absolutely furious with him. It was just like, how dare you suggest that I be grateful for my mum dying? She's not going to see my wedding. She's not going to see her grandchildren. How am I supposed to be grateful for that? It took a long time for me to digest that, and years before I looked back and just thought, you know what, he's absolutely right. Because I consequently made choices that have been because I chose to be happy, because I chose to be grateful. There are good things that come out of these things. We had a little cottage that I ended up inheriting. So, I had a little nest egg and things like that, where you then go and put it to good use somewhere else, or there are silver linings where you just think, well, that just got me a bit further in the road, emotionally and a personal capacity, because you realize just how precious everything is. It gives you a whole different perspective on life, I think.
It does, but that's still to say that that's a hell of a decision to make at 19. I think what I was like at 19. I mean,
I know. Well, my son turned 19 on Tuesday, and I do look at him and just think, gosh, if he was orphaned now, the state of his room would just be diabolical. He'd live on toasted sandwiches. It'd be a pig pen in no time at all. Yeah, I know. But then, because I'd grown up with only me, mum, and my sister in the family, because our father had passed away when I was only 3, I'd always been the second adult in the household. Maybe I was quite old for my years anyway. I'd already had quite a lot of responsibility in the household, so it wasn't such an enormous leap for me. Of course, you know it all at 19 anyway.
You know everything at 19, don't you?
Yeah, you're invincible. But because I didn't have parents, I could do really naughty things, like have really fast motorbikes.
Oh, nice. What motorbike did you have?
I had an R6.
Did you?
Fastest production motorbike that was on the market.
Yeah.
I could, because had my mum been alive, I would never have dreamed of having such an insane piece of kit. But because there was no parents who would worry if I died horribly on the motorway, I was just like, fucking have a road.
Just go for it.
Yeah.
Open the throttle up.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is, with the bees, and I don't know what chronological order that we've ended up in, and so we haven't even touched on herbs. But all these things fell one after the other. And so farming and food obviously is very something dear to you.
I think all the path that I've taken, and I'm sure this is the same for just about everybody in life, it lends itself to the next step. So if I hadn't worked in pharmaceuticals, I probably wouldn't have had such a bee in my bonnet about health and food that we feed each other.
Was the bee in the bonnet deliberate there, or was that?
Sorry, so that's another one.
When I edit this, I'm going to put a little bing sound effect every time bee is mentioned. Yeah, right. Sorry, carry on.
So the pharmaceuticals led to like the health and food and how important that was, and then the farming made me realize how broken our farming systems are, and that the food that we're producing can be not great for us either. And so the food led to the farming, and then the farming led ultimately to the food, for me producing food that I felt was actually nutritious and healthy food that I would want to feed my children, and I'd want other children to eat. So it was all useful. So my pharmaceutical background has been really useful in my current role as making healthy food. And even my job at the school, where I'm back in the science lab, gave me the opportunity to refresh all my lab skills, so that when I make a formulation for a food, like when I make my menopause food, I'm quite used to using measurements and Bunsen and burners and things, and being quite meticulous about, the milligrams per gram of whatever it is that I'm putting in. So it made me work as a scientist rather than as a chef or a cook, because I'm making a functional food that's to have a functional use for people with certainly with the menopause stuff.
Do you sell said food? Because the reason I'm interested in that was one thing that somebody gave me a book when I was diagnosed called, very bluntly, How Not to Die.
Yes, that's a great book.
Oh, you know of it? I've never read it.
Yeah.
I've never opened it because I was so, I don't know, was incensed as the right word, but no, so I've never read it. But I think I mentioned before that it wasn't that long ago when you watched Stand Up to Cancer on Channel 4, and they said, 1 in 4 people will die of cancer, or will have cancer in their lifetime. And then it wasn't that long ago that 1 in 3 people will experience cancer in their lifetime. And I was watching it, I don't know when it was, within the last 6 months, it's 1 in 2. So I appreciate that, how we detect cancer and how we treat cancer and whatever it is has obviously evolved. But I was going to swear then, how have we gone from, in my non-scientific brain, I've gone, surely there must be a reason why we've gone from 1 in 4 to 1 in 2, half the population. And surely the main thing that we do is breathe air and eat food. So it must be something to do. I wouldn't say mine was particularly anything to do with lifestyle. Obviously, some of them are genetic and some of them are, hereditary and what have you. And I wouldn't say that I've done anything particularly bad in my life and that led to my cancer. But surely, if there's that many more cases, then it has to be down to to diet, to sedentary working, to whatever. I don't know what your views on.
I'm sure it's a combination of things. I'm sure it's environmental factors as well as our food. For me, certainly food is just absolutely critical. And since the rise of the supermarkets and convenience foods that, are full of stabilizers, caking agents, additives, preservatives, all sorts of things that our bodies are not yet evolved to digest or cope with, they act as toxins in our body. And that has become our normal dietary fare. That isn't the exception anymore. For some people, that is what they eat all the time.
All the time.
Microwavable burger, and ready meals that just go in the microwave every night because we're busy, because we're coming home from work and we're tired and the kids are hungry and, we're eating entirely differently. And in years gone by, people grew their own food in their veg patches. We all had a little plot. We all had our own spuds out the garden and the peas out of the garden. And we don't do that anymore. And so our peas are sprayed with things and they are processed and all the nutrients and things that were in those vegetables for us are no longer in those vegetables for us because we've depleted our soils so much. So our soils aren't giving our food as much nutrition as they used to. And the chemicals that are put on our food to try and make them grow now are having an impact on us. I think there is a small turning of the tide where we're now becoming a bit more conscious about how every single little thing that we put into our body has a chemical reaction. Every mouthful that we take, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, whether it is a fruit, an apple or something like that, or it is a burger, it causes chemical reactions within our body. And by doing Zoe and things like that, people see the big peaks and troughs in our sugar and things like that, and are beginning to understand that what we eat fundamentally changes our physiology. Now, if you persistently eat supermarket bread, which is just basically overprocessed grains that are bleached, that are covered in chemicals just to grow them, and then they're whipped into a big foam and there's a caking agents and stabilizers and all that are added to it, and then it's baked and then it's put on our shelves. We all eat that every single day. We are eating that. There's no nutritional value in that. That is a whole bunch of chemicals packed and wrapped, ready to make a sandwich with. We accept it. We think it's good. And if it says it's brown or it's wholemeal and stuff like that, jobs are good. And it's just like, no, not really. Really not. So fundamentally, our diets have become really rubbish. And we are not eating like we did generations ago, for sure.
Well, what about even things like, I know you mentioned when we were talking earlier on the phone about apples, because presumably an apple, how do you, I suppose that's the tricky thing, isn't it? You could buy an apple from a supermarket, and is that the same apple that you'd have bought 20 years ago, or is it now been mass produced with chemicals? Unless you've got an apple tree in your garden, which I have actually, but it's mainly cooking apples. But how do you, I've got a bread maker, so are you suggesting that is the grain that I buy or whatever, the flour, where do you draw the line, I guess?
You get organic flours, you get stone ground flours, you get, milled in the UK flours. Those flours are there, they are available. Bread is just flour, water and yeast. Doesn't need anything else in it. It should go off within a day or two max if you're lucky. That is a fresh loaf of bread. That is, and it will have something in it that's nutritious for you. If you added seeds and flax and things like that, it would be even better for you. The apples, yeah, apparently so. Apple that was around by the Second World War had 40% more vitamins and minerals in it for some of the minerals and vitamins. Apple does of this day and age because the big commercial orchards that we need to feed us all the time have depleted the soils. All that goodness has been taken out of them because not only has the apple tree been absorbing those nutrients, but we are spraying the apples for pests and things like that. So that spray goes onto the fruit when the fruit falls on the floor, or the insects fall on the floor, or the birds aren't eating the insects anymore, so they're not fertilizing in that vicinity, those chemicals do get into the soil and they kill the bacteria and they kill all the invertebrates and things that are in the soil that actually would have made it a healthy soil and made it more nutritious. So it's a bit of a vicious cycle. The minute you start killing one part of the cycle, the rest of it just follows.
The rest of it falls apart, yeah.
Yeah, so now we need a lot more chemicals to grow our food, and they're on our food and they're in our food. So, any supermarket apple's not a good thing, but there are farmers markets and there are organic markets and there are market gardens of people doing farm shares where you can buy a box of veggies and stuff from people who are trying to make community farms and make those things viable, and those fruit and veg will be much, much better for you.
And is that the sort of route that you went down for your own kids?
Oh, I say I'm not evangelical about it. I try not to be evangelical about it. But as you know, I can rant about food quite a lot. Yes, I mean, it was the meat for me. It was the protein that I felt I couldn't face eating supermarket chickens. Because if you can buy a chicken for £3 in the supermarket, it is not a chicken that you want to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I farm, I can't buy a chick for less than £1.50, £1.75. If I keep it alive for a decent amount of time, so it's mature, it's not done in a couple of weeks, it's done in a couple of months or more. It has cost me to feed that chick is another £5 to £6. And then you've got to pay to get it slaughtered. Then you've got to pay to get it back and wrapped. And you've got to drive it here and there for all that process to happen in a healthy way. There is no way that doesn't, in this country, doesn't cost more than about £15, £20. You just can't do it. And that is without anyone making any profit. That is just to grow the blooming thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you can see something for £3 on a shelf, it's probably not come from this country. It's probably come from somewhere like Vietnam. It's probably had a horrendous existence. It would never have seen a blade of grass. So it hasn't got the nutrients in it. There's nothing in it that's of much goodness for you. It's just, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I gave some samples of the chickens to the chefs at Andrew Fairley at Gleneagles restaurant, because they'd been taking my pork, the milk-fed pork. I wanted them to try my chickens and give their opinion on what my chickens were like. And I thought they were going to say, oh, the meat's amazing. It's, so full of flavor. It's like chicken used to taste, blah, blah, blah. They phoned up and they said, the bones are amazing. I was like, oh, thanks a bunch. They were like, no, the bones are amazing. He said, because we don't get chickens with bones anymore. They're all rubbery and pathetic and weak and little, because they don't exercise. They're not out on pasture. They're kept in these tiny little enclosed spaces. Even if they're free range, they only need to have like a meter or so to be qualified for
qualify as free range.
Yeah. So that was their benchmark of what, the quality of the meat essentially is, that you could tell it had a good life. And they do taste different because they are eating bugs and they're eating grasses and they're eating lots of plants that have proteins in them and blood cleansers in them and things that if you feed it something grain all the time that's been manufactured and probably sprayed and full of chemicals, that's what you get as a product at the end of it. It's a completely different.
And that's what we're putting in our bodies.
Yeah, and that's what most of us are eating. And buy one get one free and £3 chickens, we're all thinking that's great news, that's brilliant. But unfortunately, you other ways.
You get what you pay for. And I'm conscious we've only got 2 minutes left. I mean, I feel I could talk to you for there's at least another 2 or 3 episodes in this, Charlotte.
Probably your special guest.
Special guest.
Now and again. When you've got a dull
we'll wheel Charlotte out. Here she comes.
Yeah.
But no, that was fascinating. And I would love to come and visit you and see you, whether that's for the bees or whether that's just for a cup of tea. And because as we know, you make lovely cups of tea.
Lovely cup of tea.
So bees, you're saying that start in March, April time? April.
Yeah. We close it down during the winter months. So the bees kind of go into a mini hibernation. They're not very active and the colony shrinks down. So we're going to wait until about April time to reopen the Apipod so that the colonies are good and strong and thriving by that stage. And so
brilliant.
Between April and September that you'll have to come and see us.
Brilliant. Well, what I will do, I'll mention that to Paul. and I'll be in touch. I've got your WhatsApp number now. We'll be in touch and we will sort something out. But that has been absolutely fascinating. We've only got a minute left, so I will give you a ring after this cuts off. Thank you so much, Charlotte, for being on. And I don't think it's the last we've heard of you.
No, maybe not. We've got some more episodes to do, but it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm glad you phoned this morning and that I had the opportunity to have a chat. That's great.
What did you think about that, Paul?
Well, like I said before, the chat, it's fascinating. I mean, I was really interested to hear about the bee therapy side of things initially because, well, I mean, bees are quite nice insects, I guess, aren't they? But I was wondering
Unless they sting you.
Well, yeah, but they would only sting you if provoked. Like, they're not nasty. They're not like little bastards like wasps and hornets and things like that.
No, aren't they? I didn't know they had separate personalities. Do they, bees?
Yeah, bees are much nicer.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And also, if a bee stings you, like its sting comes out and then the bee dies, I think. Whereas wasps can just sting and sting and sting, little
right.
hot
Don't swear again. Don't. Yeah, no. we get the gist.
Yeah,
it kind of had quite a profound effect on me
in
many different ways, and sort of opened up a lot of questions which I have written down.
Okay.
So, well, I suppose starting not about the bees, but what she was saying about choosing how to react. Now that's something that crops up in the chimp book, the Chimp Paradox book by Dr. Stephen Peters.
Good old Stevie.
Good old Stevie Peters. If you haven't read that, by the way, it's well worth a read. But just in choosing, and I know it's not always easy to do, but like the example that she uses where you reverse into a bollard and you go, oh, silly me, I reversed into a bollard, rather than what I would do, a bit like the ice baths.
Yeah.
You could take that as an example and go, oh, for God's sake, there's something else on the list I've got to sort out because I've now got 3 ice baths coming and a sauna and I've got to sort out the postage back and blah, 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 rather than going, I've got a sauna. Send me a sauna. That's funny, isn't it? And there's all that energy and time that you've used up ruminating about, things that have gone wrong, whether that's reversed into a bollard or whether you've, got the wrong order or whatever it is. And again, the chimp book says it's about helicoptering over your timeline and looking in that, that one point in time. So the ice bath point or the reversing into the bollard point and stretching that over a 10-year timeline. And how important is that one moment? Is it worth spending all that time and energy? Is it really important in the grand scheme of things? No. So
absolutely.
I don't think it's always easy to go, well, I'm just going to choose to be happy. But it's an interesting concept.
It is. And so I've got a couple of things to say about that, actually. So I saw a post, yesterday we had a brief chat about motivational quotes.
Yes, we did.
So I happened to see somebody had posted a motivational quote to their Instagram story, and it was about how to deal with the loss of a friendship. And it had all these little things in it, little pictures, and it said things like, remember that the memories are important, try to make new friends. And it had all these little tactics on how to deal with losing a friend. And then when I clicked on the actual post, it was sort of going, when you have a romantic relationship end, and you have all that kind of emotional stuff to deal with, like losing a friendship for whatever reason is actually very similar. But the point is that the whole motivational quote was geared around having a positive outlook on the relationship ending, either a romantic one or a friendship. But it's that shift in perspective. It's like, don't be angry at them because something has happened that's led to this ending. Ignore that and focus on the stuff that made you happy when you had that relationship. And then once you've kind of made your peace with it, then you come to terms with it and then you can try and get over it rather than coming at it from a negative perspective. And it's a similar kind of thing, I suppose. It's how you choose to react to that. And again, sort of linking into our chat with Adrienne in the last episode, and we were saying how it's quite hard to live in the moment sometimes because we're too busy dwelling on the past or dwelling on the future. And this is in some ways connected because if you, for example, reverse into a bollard, how you react to that in the moment, like your initial gut reaction that you can't really control, might be one of anger or frustration. but then being in the moment and recognizing that and going, no, hang on, that's not the way that I should react to this. Let's try and flip it. Let's try and approach it from a different way. So it's all these things that we are talking about and sharing with people out there who are listening. They're all kind of interconnected.
Yeah.
And I find that really fascinating. And after you listen to what she's gone through in her life, I mean, it was
Unbelievable.
tragic and fascinating story. And for her to have that kind of positive outlook is bloody amazing, considering what she's been through.
I'll be honest, she blindsided me because I went into that thinking I was going to talk about bees.
Yeah.
And I got hit by that. And I was like, this is just it's an unbelievable story. And then what she's taken from that is also equally, I think, really inspirational.
So you're listening to it when she sort of said, oh, I think it was just a kind of off the cuff remark in a way. She just went, oh, I didn't think I'd see 50. So, I'm chuffed that I'm celebrating my birthday or whatever it was. And you went, I think there's a story behind that. Surely
maybe need
do
to,
you want to talk about that? So, I mean, a fair play to Charlotte for being quite open and honest about it, because she could have quite easily gone, actually, no, I'd rather not. And you go, okay, cool, let's get back to the bees. But actually, because she's quite open and honest about it, which is what we're trying to encourage, I suppose, through this podcast as well. It's like open, honest discussion about mental health. It's actually led on to a very different experience.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I took from that as well is that she mentioned that she had a younger sister.
Yes.
And I wonder whether her younger sister has had a similar experience in that she's turned this into a positive, and what has she, that's a very obviously personal question for her, and Charlotte's not here to say anything, but whether her sister has had a similar experience in that she's very positive about that and chooses to frame and react to things positively, or whether because you could have people who have had experiences like that and gone doom and gloom, woe is me, quite rightly, because it's awful, and reacted to it completely different. So that stuck in my head as well, as I wonder how her sister reacted to it.
I think, if I'm right in saying, Charlotte was 19 when she lost her mum. So by the time she was 19 and her little sister was, I can't remember,
16?
16, there was a 3-year gap, wasn't there? So losing both parents at that age. But Charlotte went back to university to finish her degree because it's what her mum would have wanted. So how the 16-year-old sister felt about all that, because obviously there would have been somebody looking after her, I assume. But yeah, just, Charlotte just being that bit older and having that kind of adult life at universities, or, young adult life, how it was for the sister, kind of letting Charlotte go back to pursue that, and then sort of just getting on with life back at home, but with different circumstances. Yeah, it was a horrible situation, but such a positive way of looking at it. I thought it was incredible.
Well, can I just say that on the back of that, I have started looking into my gut health. I've been drinking lots of kefir, lots of kombucha. I've even made my own bread, Paul.
You sent me a picture. It did look like a really nice loaf of bread, to be fair.
The kids go, "Oh, it's disgusting," but it's actually very tasty.
Do they think it's disgusting because they're used to supermarket bread or whatever that's got sugar and additives and stuff in it? Yeah.
I mean, I by accident, I bought, because again, I don't think I've ever set foot in Holland and Barrett, because I think previously, because I think that's where hippies shop, and then came out with bagfuls of stuff.
Expensive stuff.
One of which was, I think it's spelt flour, which basically means, I think, that they don't take the husk. So I suppose it's like, in layman's terms, having a skin on a baked potato. So when the flour is ground, you get all the nutrients and whatever from the husks. It's not just the refined white bit that's got no goodness left in it.
I see.
So I had organic. I've even bought organic bee honey deodorant. Wow. That face says it all, Paul. But I don't know. I just
do you smell like honey?
Pretty much, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I might. I don't know whether I should wear it if we ever go in the pod, Apipod, because it might send the bees crazy if
You'll
they
be
can smell
the
me.
new queen.
Yeah. Well, hello. Let's not do your crown voice again. Come on,
Oh, yeah.
everybody. Come on, all the bees. I'm here.
Oh dear.
Also love that she had an R6. I thought that was a
Oh
bizarre thing.
yeah.
I think that was a bizarre thing to say, that she's like, well, I had an R6, never killed myself. I didn't have any parents to worry about it. So again,
But again, that way of looking at it, it's like it's a dangerous thing. But hey.
my dad always used to pick me up on a Friday. He used to finish work early on a Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and he always used to pick me up from school on the back of his. He had and I still remember now to this day. He had a Kawasaki GBZ 750, and it went like off a shovel. But I used to have to. Had to learn very quickly to hold the bar at the back, because it's not so cool as a teenage boy hugging your dad round the waist on the
Yeah.
back of said machine, rather than sat upright with your arms on the back. But yes, I used to have to. The helmet was too big, so I had to take the helmet in the morning, and the helmet was too big to fit in the school lockers. So always had to go to the head of house's office, much to she was disgusted that I was going on a motorbike. But I used to have to take the crash helmet into her office every Friday morning for safekeeping. It wouldn't fit in the lockers. Anyway, that's my Kawasaki GBZ 750 story. She also mentioned Zoe.
Yeah. Now I've seen this cropping up on social media quite a lot.
Is this the Dragon's Den boy?
I don't know actually, but I've seen like Davina McCall and people like that slapping the thing on their arm. I've also seen people complain about it because they're sort of like taking resources away from people who actually need to use stuff like that for proper medical reasons rather than lifestyle reasons. But I
really?
don't know. Yeah, I don't know how true that is, or if that's a
No.
storm in a teacup or whatever. But yeah,
I didn't know whether, again, I'll probably speak to Charlotte at some point and say, did she think that something like that was worthwhile? Because I've thought about it,
Mhm.
And whether that would be beneficial. I'm not entirely sure. Is it work out what you're allergic to, or what's good for you, what's not good for you? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it works out your body needs, like, it kind of shows you the levels of all the nutrients or vitamins or whatever it is, sugar levels, things like that. So you can
Calcium?
Possibly, I don't know. But you can then adapt your diet to, because you can sort of see in real time, I guess, on your mobile or whatever, what you need, what you're lacking, and you can tailor your diet to kind of.
I don't think it's cheap.
No, I wouldn't imagine it was.
Well, they've got Davina McCall advertising it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what is it? We're just talking. While we're on the app, I know we're going off at a tangent here, but as per usual, adverts. Right? I, out of principle, am never going to buy a sofa from Sofology.
Okay.
Sofology, or how I used to call them, Sofaology, a bit like Pinterest and Pininterest.
Mm-hmm.
If they can afford to get Owen Wilson and Helena Bonham Carter to advertise their sofas, then I would suggest that they're having to recoup that money from somewhere, and that their sofas are overpriced. I don't know if I'm even allowed. Am I allowed to say that?
I don't know. Probably not. Well, it's out there now. I don't ever know about stuff like that because it all comes from it'll come from a different budget, won't it?
Yeah, but the company still. It's like, what's his name is now doing Uber Eats. You're talking to me. You're talking to me.
Oh, De Niro.
Yeah, see, that was a good. Yes, it was so good.
It wasn't. It was the words that clued me in there, not the.
You talking to me?
Yeah, see, I would have got it if you'd done. Even Elmo Pickles could have said that, and I would have got the De Niro reference.
Are you talking to me?
Oh, hello, Elmo. Where'd you come from? He just popped up behind you there, like.
And you'd have gone.
He's gone
De
again.
Niro. De Niro.
I'm more interested why Elmo Pickles is just lurking about in your office.
No, he's just poked his head through open window.
Oh yeah, because he's just outside looking in.
Outside looking in, yeah.
Oh, right, I'll see you soon, Elmo.
He's gone.
All right, but yeah, a while ago, Warburton's bread, they had like Stallone on their adverts and stuff, and there was a little phase there where like sort of, I guess what you would call sort of low key British companies, I suppose, that were getting all these Hollywood stars in to advertise.
Well, does Yorkshire tea, doesn't he? Captain Kirk.
Oh, Shatner.
No.
That's who Captain Kirk is.
Well, who's the other? Who's the new one? Who was in the
Chris-
X-Men? Was he not Captain Kirk as well? I don't watch Star Trek, so I apologize. What's his name? The bald guy.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
He was Captain Picard. It was a completely different person.
Okay, right.
I mean, I don't know a lot about Star Trek, but
Mm.
he was the captain on Next Generation.
So is that after the Enterprise?
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Anyway,
I
yeah.
would imagine he's cheap.
No, probably not.
So we should definitely, when the bees are ready, because they're having a little snooze
Mhm.
at the minute, seeing as though you are Paul, the son of bees.
I am Beeson, yes.
I wonder whether that's where you got your name. Do you come from a line of beekeepers?
I don't know, possibly. So on my dad's side of the family, so his dad, my granddad, was a Beeson, and his wife, her maiden name was Bee, like B-double-E.
Mm.
So when she got married, she just had to put S-O-N at the end of her surname when she changed her name to Beeson.
Oh, well, there you
Isn't
go.
that funny?
It's funny.
And another little random one on my mum's side of the family, one of the surnames that ran through the family was Hare. So, the Irish, like Hare.
Mm-hmm.
And my mum's auntie was a Hare, and she married a guy called Johnny Combe. Always thought that was quite funny.
And you thought it was ridiculous that I used to work with somebody called Barry Gibb?
Yeah, because Johnny Combe wasn't in the Bee Gees for a start. I was just going to say it could be, an absolute haven for me. I might walk in there and just be at one with the bees.
Maybe we're gonna have like some sort of ceremony, and I'm gonna be the queen of the bees. Come on, everybody, Paul's here, and then the king of the bees,
That's me.
yeah, is gonna wander in, and they're gonna go, oh, there's gonna be a collective gasp as you enter the Apipod. Mm.
Yeah. A collective buzz.
Oh, that's gonna be, yeah. Oh, blimey.
Well, we shall see when we get
We shall
round to
see.
that in the spring.
But no, I found the conversation remarkable for many things. I mean, even though we didn't really talk about the bees, and she calls herself Herb Majesty because I think she's into herbs and herbology, and I think she does things to do with the menopause and things like that as well, which I don't think we should maybe get a female guest presenter on to interview her about things.
Yeah, that might be good. A little break from tradition.
From us. Waffling on. It might be quite concise. They might have it all done in about 10 minutes rather than
all the waffle. Yeah.
All the waffle.
Watch the listening figures for that one episode spike through the roof.
Yeah, that was really interesting. That one concise episode where you actually talked about stuff that was interesting.
Yeah, get her back on. She's amazing.
Yeah, we can retire.
But that is great. And another thing I found fascinating was our sort of background in pharmaceuticals, and how so much of the medication, the sort of prescription drugs that we take, is all derived from concentrated natural ingredients. And if you know what you're doing and you know what herbs' properties are, you can sort of have a really healthy way of life without resorting to prescription drugs. I think we definitely need to get Charlotte back on to go into more detail about the other facets that we never had time to go over in that sort of first chat with her, for sure. Just fascinating lady.
Well, like I say, she blindsided me slightly because I was is anyone else like, hang on a minute, what on earth just happened? And then dissected it in my own brain. I've gone, well, hang on, this just opens up many more questions. So yes, I think now I appreciate it's not always easy. She's saying about cheap chickens and whatever, and there's a cost of living crisis, and we can't all go out and buy organic chicken or whatever. But I just think it is interesting that that's the main fuel and the main thing that we put in our bodies on a daily basis, whether that's bread, whether it's chicken, whether it's apples that haven't got the same nutrients in it. I just thought it was an interesting. And again, it's obvious when you think about it, but I just maybe hadn't thought about it.
No, do you know, when I was on tour recently with a guy who was talking about this sort of juice cleanse that he's done a couple of times, where it's like all sort of fruit and vegetables, and you can have, it's one of those things you can have as much of that as you want, but he was like, yeah, but there's no point in just going to the supermarket and buying loads of fruit and veg because it's filled with crap. He said, so he used to get organic stuff from a farm, like delivered to his flat, and then he would make his smoothies and
Right.
juices that way because he could guarantee that there was no pesticides, there was no nasty stuff. Because he went, the only way to do that kind of thing properly is to do it the way nature intended, I suppose.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it has made me think, because I used to think it was kind of a hippie thing to go, oh yeah, when you grow your own carrots and parsnips, I mean, they taste so much better than the ones you get at the supermarket, and they do.
Mm-hmm.
They have a
sure.
lot of taste to them. So I think, again, buoyed by that, I'm going to get the kids to, we used to grow our own broccoli, and actually broccoli is pretty easy. I thought it was difficult. It was pretty easy to grow, and carrots and parsnips, and certainly potatoes are easy to grow. So yeah, no, I think there's certainly something in that. Anyway, should we talk mystery guest?
Yeah. So when I must admit, when I first heard it, because I was only privy to the mystery part, when you first sent it to me, you edited out the guy,
Is the first
celebrity in question, yeah.
Yes.
Introducing himself. So I was like, oh, and I've got to be honest, I was like, I have no idea who that is. I can't place that voice to anybody. But just because of the accent, I was like, I wonder if he was in Father Ted.
Mm-hmm.
But then I didn't know sort of where to start without, sort of Googling all the people that I couldn't name from Father Ted and then just reeling off a list of names, which is against the spirit of the game.
I'll play the clip in full now, so you all know who it is, and then we can go into some of the answers that we had on social media.
Hello, everybody. It's Michael Redmond here, or you might know me better as Father Stone from the Channel 4 sitcom Father Ted.
Okay, so that was Michael Redmond, aka Father Stone from Father Ted. But that's lovely for Michael to do that for us. So thank you very much, Michael.
Yes, thank you, Michael. It was so nice of you to give us a wee plug and just take a bit of time out of your day to do that.
Yes. Unfortunately, most people on social media didn't guess it was Father Stone. So just to run through some of the ones that we've had. So Grant Thompson guessed Noel Fitzpatrick. Do you know who he is?
Not off the top of my head.
He's the super vet. I think he's on like morning television. He is at least Irish.
Yes.
Charlotte Wallace was an interesting one. She guessed Danny McCaskill, who I think is he Scottish? I think he's Scottish. And then she's gone. So I've gone, no, you might be better having another guess. So she's guessed Stephen Fry. So I've basically asked her, have you been on the eggnog? And she said, well, he supports a lot of mental health charities. I'm like, yes, I appreciate he does a lot of work for mental health, Charlotte, but the aim of the game is to guess someone whose voice sounds remotely like the clip.
Yeah, Stephen Fry does have a very distinctive voice, I would say.
He does have a very distinctive voice. At that point, Charlotte's gone, oh, I didn't realize there was audio. She was just randomly guessing. So yeah, I mean, and also it's very kind of Michael to do the clip, but I don't think we're quite on Stephen Fry's radar just yet.
I wouldn't have thought yet.
There are a couple of Ardlo Hanlons.
Yeah, I could see that.
So Jenny Rogers, well done, you were close, but no cigar. And then with our old friend
Nicola.
Now Nicola, I think we should just send her a pen. Because she's had that many guesses, I was just like, do you know what? I'm just going to send you a pen.
Yeah, just please stop typing.
I mean, she had Giles Brandreth.
Yeah, see, that I don't know where that came from.
No, but there is a bit of Brandreth in there. I do get that. Clearly, Brandreth isn't Irish.
Maybe, but then also, yeah, I suppose maybe Nicola thought that our celeb was putting on an accent to fool everybody.
No, we're not that clever.
No.
She then guessed someone, I think she also guessed Ardlo Hanlon, and I said, well, you're very close. He used to be in the same program, because I think she had Graham Norton. Again, I don't think Graham Norton. I mean, if we could get Graham Norton to retweet stuff on our behalf, because he's plugged our show, again, I think we could probably retire.
Yeah.
But then on the basis, I said, no, he was in the same, because Graham Norton was in Father Ted. He's in it in at least one episode.
He's in a couple, I think.
I think he's in 3, yeah. She then guessed who was the old guy who sat in the chair, Father Jack.
Father Jack, yeah.
Well, he's dead.
That's right, yeah. Passed away sadly a couple of years ago, I think.
He did, yeah. So I think we just give it. I think that was what was her tactic, was if I just guess enough.
If everyone who's been in Father Ted, I'll get there eventually. Yeah.
Yes. So I think that deserves a pen.
Yeah, fair enough. So Nicola, if you're listening, you'll need to DM us your address. And we'll
DM
get
us
a
your
pen out
address
to
and
you.
we'll get a pen. But we're not doing it again, Nicola. So don't, whenever the next quiz is.
Yeah, you've already won.
You've got
won
a
at life.
pen.
Yeah.
You can enter. I mean, we liked your answers. By all means, enter. It's entertaining, but
Just don't expect a pen.
just don't
Nicola.
expect a pen.
All right.
Talking of quizzes,
Mm.
I had to challenge you on, not challenge you on something, but just again, not like me to be pedantic, but just to pick up on something. So first of all, I've got a mental as anything fact.
Okay.
I think it was on my homework list to find out whether they were still going.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Well, as far as I can tell, they're not.
Oh,
Their last show was on the 30th of November, 2019.
oh, it's still fairly recent, though.
And then their lead singer died on the 2nd of December, 2019. So was that 3 days later
Oh,
from a heart attack.
oh, dear
So
me.
age 63. So on that basis, I would suggest they're no longer
Yeah,
touring.
by default.
You never know. I mean, there are bands that have lost various members, Status Quo, Queen, and they still carry on. But mental as anything, I would say no. But just to go by, we had a little bit of a tete-a-tete about, well, do you know all the songs that are in the charts at that time?
Yeah. Was
So
that me? Was that,
that was
another
you.
good impression?
A good impression, yeah.
Yeah.
All the voices, the John Coleshaw of the west of Scotland.
Of Mind Cake.
Right. So April 83. I'm going to give you
Yes.
the top 10 because you go, well, you wouldn't know all the songs. So let's see how many you know.
Okay.
Number 1, Let's Dance by someone called David Bowie or Bowie, depending on your persuasion.
Yes, we've been over this. I know that song.
Right. Number 2, Culture Club with a song called Church of the Poison Mind.
Only heard it once.
Number 3, again, quite obscure band. Is There Something I Should Know by Duran Duran.
Okay, yeah.
Number 4, Breakaway by Tracy Ullman.
Oh, Tracy Ullman. I couldn't tell you this. I mean, I remember her having a sort of pop career vaguely, but I couldn't tell you what the song sounds like.
I hate to agree with you, but I thought, well, I might know it when I play it.
Yeah.
I've never heard Breakaway by Tracy Ullman.
Yeah. I do remember watching the Tracy Ullman show when I was little. Well, I remember it being on TV anyway.
I didn't watch that.
Yeah.
I was probably 30 at the time. Number 5, you might have heard of this guy, Beat It by somebody called Michael Jackson.
Oh, that guy. Yeah, he sort of just drifted into obscurity after that, didn't he?
I think he had a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
Number 6, Beta Box by Joe Boxers.
No idea.
Right, play it. You might know it. I realized it when I played it again. I have a vague recollection of Beta Box. Boxer Beat. Boxer Beat. Boxer Beat. No, anyway, it doesn't matter. Now, here is where it gets spooky.
Spooky.
Because you said to me, "Oh yeah, I'll do your voice again. Oh yeah, well, all right, clever clogs. What was number 7 in the charts? Do you remember what I said?
Kajagoogoo.
What's Kajagoogoo?
Shut up.
It wasn't that song.
Shut up.
It was.
All right, but they were at number 7.
Number 7 was Kajagoogoo with "Ooh to Be Ah," which again I have never heard that song.
No.
But Kajagoogoo were number 7.
Was Lamal was in Kajagoogoo, right?
He was, yeah. He was the one with the big hair.
Yeah. And he did Never Ending Story, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
David Bowie link. Was he in that?
No, he was in Labyrinth, mate.
Oh, right, okay.
But similar, there was that sort of time in the
Similar
80s
genre.
where there was a fascination with the fantasy genre.
Fancy puppets.
And Jim Henson stuff and Dungeons and Dragons, all that kind of stuff was quite big in the 80s, wasn't it? The sort of fantasy thing.
I was more Tunnels and Trolls.
Tunnels and Trolls.
Tunnels and Trolls. Was that Michael Caine?
Michael, what are you doing here?
I didn't used to play Dungeons and Dragons. I only used to play Tunnels and Trolls.
Tunnels and Trolls.
It was niche.
Cool.
That is an actual thing. Tunnels and tunnel. I'm going to say
I didn't know that. Was it a D&D rip-off, was it?
I think it was
like
better.
Oh, right.
Anyway.
Better, but D&D got all the publicity.
Yeah. Same as Scalextrics.
Mm-hmm.
I never had a Scalextrics. I had Pole Still.
Oh, right.
It was endorsed by Nicky Lauda.
All right. Wow.
There you go.
There we go, indeed.
Right, number 8. So we're still going. Words by F.R. David.
Oh, no.
Well, you will know it. Words mean something to me.
Yeah.
Words don't come easy
See, to me.
to me. Why are you doing singing all the songs in the
sorry.
Michael Caine?
Sorry, I do apologize. You are the impression man. I'll
let
do
me
no
do that.
impressions going forward.
Well, here you go. You might do an impression of the next one. Number 9 was the Snot Rap by Kenny Everett.
Oh, God.
Go on, do your Sid Snot impersonation.
I don't know how to do a Sid Snot impersonation.
Yeah, you do. Don't be shy.
No. Again, I'm aware of Kenny Everett, but that character or whatever, then not so much.
Sid Snot.
Mm.
Yeah, I had a song. I do know that one. And number 10, you might have to sort of, I don't know, get up and salute for number 10.
Uh-huh.
It's Fields of Fire, brackets 400 miles by Big Country. That's it. Give you a Big Country salute.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that song. I mean, obviously everybody knows Big Country by Big Country because that was their big famous
Country
hit, wasn't it? Yeah, that was their Big Country.
Mm-hmm. No, I know. I used to have their album.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure they did more than one album, but yes, I used to have
heard a Big Country song on the radio the other day,
and
it came on. I'd never heard the song. It might have been, I don't know if it was that song that you're talking about, but it came on. I was like, I've never heard that song, but I could tell you it's Big Country. You could just tell.
You could tell.
Yeah. All right. Well, so in the top 10, probably just under half are familiar.
Yeah, I would say 3. Breakaway by Tracy Ullman, Beta Box by the Joe Boxers, and Ooh to Be Ah by Kajagoogoo. Maybe a possibly vague recollection, but so I have to say I kind of agree with you that no, I didn't know. I knew 7 of the 10 though. I don't know whether that proves me right or you right.
Well, okay, so let's think about this. So that week, what was it, April? Did you say April 83?
Yeah.
So I would have been 3 years old. You would have been
26.
27, yeah. So you would have been about 7, is that right?
No, I was 10.
10?
Yeah. I was born in
73.
Yeah, I was born in 73.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, see, maths isn't my strong point, as we've already discussed with the step count debacle.
Yes.
And there was the other thing as well that I picked up listening to a previous episode when I was talking about my punishing schedule doing Polar Express. And I overestimated the amount of shows I did by 100.
I was going to say, I'd listen to that. I was like, there's no way. If he's doing 5 shows a day, right, at peak, how on earth is he doing
20 shows? Yeah.
200 shows?
It was like 100 and something, yeah. It was 105 shows or something, yeah. So there you go. Maths isn't my strong point.
No.
So anyway, so if you were to pick a week in April, so I would have been 10 in 1990. So if you picked a week in April 1990, and maybe I would get 7 of the top 10. Do you know what I mean? Just because it's more familiar.
What we'll do, that's my homework. I'll stick it on my list. The same week in 1990. Is that the year you want?
Well, yeah, because we'll go by the age. So you were 10 in 83. So I was 10 in 1990. So let's.
I reckon because 90s, then I'm going to be what, 17.
Yeah, there's a 7.
Yeah, you're right. You don't need to spell it out. So I think 90 would be. I would say 80s, early 90s is kind of my hot spot
chart. Yeah.
So I'll get the chart list, and we can do the same thing next week. Not mental health related at all, and people will be crying out for whoever our female guest presenter is to talk to Charlotte about herbs.
Yeah.
No, we want more of the charts from 20, 30 years ago, please.
Hey, listen, it's good for our mental health.
That's true. Yeah. I'm still waiting
And
for a call from the doctor.
and if it gives people a giggle, then you know what I mean. That's
Does it though?
if they don't like it, they don't have to listen.
That's true. Everyone's turned off.
But please listen.
It's that thing like on Take Me Out where they'll go boo 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 boo. So as soon as the interview's finished with Charlotte, everyone turns their light off.
Yeah.
We don't care about.
They're missing out. They're missing out on this gold.
They are missing out.
Now, I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about, but I want an update on your what do you call it? Spa things. What do you call them?
My ice baths.
Your plunge baths, yeah. I want an update on Plunge Bath Gate.
Well, I've got one here.
You've actually got a plunge bath next to you.
That's it. That is all in there.
Wow. It's quite thin. It's thinner than I imagined.
Number 2.
And it's made of cardboard.
Yeah. No, it's still in the box because in case I need to.
Oh, that's the box, right?
I need to send it back. So number 2 ice bath has turned up. The sauna and the other ice bath are behind me, and so I think number 3 is due. Now, what I did think, and I don't know why I should say this out loud, but depending on how this goes, again, it's how you reframe it, isn't it, Charlotte?
Yes.
It's very good. All the
hey, Charlotte, where did you come from?
He does all the voices. It's been a bit packed in here today. What with Elmo, Michael Caine,
I know,
and Charlotte. And the guy who sings words.
FR
David.
That's the one.
Yeah. So I'm reframing it, and maybe, just maybe, terms and conditions apply if the listener pays for the postage and packaging, we could give an ice bath away.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because that's kind of mental health related, isn't it? Because it hasn't really, well, potentially hasn't cost me anything. I might end up with a spare one.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on whether they give me a refund.
Well, do you know, I think we do that. Like we do a giveaway of some kind.
Let's wait and see if the third one turns up first.
Yeah, but then, and if you end up having to pay for it, we'll just do a crowdfunder. Worked for Game of Cones, didn't it?
Yeah. Look what happened to that.
Yeah.
Here we are. Well, this came out of it.
Here we are. Well, exactly.
Kind of indirectly.
And neither has made us any money.
No. No, maybe selling the ice bath rather than giving it away would be the only way to actually make any money out of any venture that I do with you, Paul.
Yeah.
There's that.
There is that. But I mean, that's a good idea. I mean, if it all goes to plan.
Well, do you want it?
No. I mean, I have a bath if I wanted to do something like that,
That's not outdoors though, is it?
No, it's not.
Well, plus, hang on, before we, again, disclaimer, please be careful if you're going in ice baths because you might get tingly digits and have to go to the doctors. Tingly digits. That could be a little segment with a a jingle. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tingly Digits.
Tingly digits.
You haven't said thank you because I didn't put in a silly sound effect for housekeeping.
Well, okay, I haven't publicly thanked you, but I did thank you via WhatsApp.
I want you to thank me, which I had to prompt you for.
Thanks, Lee, for doing your job.
Yeah. That's fine. If you thank me in public, I accept your apology.
Apology? Oh, dear. Yes.
That's not to say I'm going to do it every week. I just want to keep you on your pins and needle toes.
Yep, that's it.
Let's do it now.
Okay, welcome to Paul's housekeeping segment.
Paul Beese's housekeeping. Oh, how very lovely.
So, yes, we would love you to all get in contact with us.
Oh,
and
everybody.
Everybody, yeah, because we get the occasional email. We get a lot of people getting in contact over social media, but our little email account is feeling lonely. So please send us an email at sliceofmindcake@gmail.com. And you can get in touch with us on Twitter and Instagram at Mindcake Podcast. And you can also get in touch with us on Facebook if you search for Mindcake. Here endeth the segment.
We could end on the fact that my cousin got in contact after you, because you were a bit sad, weren't you, at the end of the last episode?
Paul, pissed off, I think, is my phrase.
because nobody loved you. And since then, we've had a plethora. Well, one person.
Yeah, one person.
My cousin has, because she did text me after she listened to the episode, because I think I've upset Paul.
Mm-hmm.
So out of duress, she's sent you, I mean, no, sorry, out of genuine love, she has sent you a message to say, now pissed me off a bit, because she said she loves you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Possibly more than me.
Wow.
It's ridiculous.
Look
So
at
she's-
me,
she's-
ruining family relationships
Yeah, she's
since
definitely not getting
2023.
Definitely not getting a pen. Where is
I'll
she?
send you a pen. I'll send you a pen.
You haven't got any pens to send. Don't listen to him, Carrie.
Oh, is that right?
I've got all the pens and all the mugs. Well, I've got all but one of the mugs because one I have kindly sent to you. But all the
Yeah.
pens are in my drawer.
Yeah, but did we not discuss we're going to have to put a different logo on the pens and all the merch because we've changed
Ooh.
logo?
Yeah, we haven't mentioned that. I was
No.
going to get one of our Australian listeners.
Mhm.
Sorry, I've got distracted because there's some messages that you've sent me on WhatsApp that we can't discuss. But this is the one I was looking for. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, shall I show you on the camera?
Yeah.
That one. Can't discuss that one. So Carrie has commented, her actual words were, sorry, Paul, of course, you are awesome too. Perhaps even more than Lee. Love, Lee's cousin. Ex-cousin, Carrie. Ex-cousin.
Thank you, Carrie, for your kind words. I feel much happier now. So
Good.
yeah, one
There's-
person out there
That's all it
thinks I'm all
takes.
right.
That's
Yeah.
all it takes.
The snowball effect,
And let's not get back onto snowballs and eggnog. Goodness sake.
and we've come full circle.
Is that it?
I think so. Yeah, why not? Why not end it there? End it on a high.
We've got, again, it's going to be an ultra long episode.
Yeah. But I'm looking forward. Actually, do you know what I should say before we go? Like, it's nice to get little messages on social media and stuff from people out there. But what could really help us out is some more reviews or some more ratings on wherever you get your podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So if you wouldn't mind, if you are listening out there and you are kind of tuning in every week and you're enjoying what you hear,
Why wouldn't you?
I couldn't say that with a straight face, could I?
No.
But if you are, on your podcast app or whatever, and it's only, takes you a few seconds, give us a little star review, 5, if you think it's good. And if you can be bothered,
1
leave
if
us
you
a
think
little
it's
review. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all
Um,
reviews are welcome. And I think, if you're not keen on Paul, but you like my bits, then just rate it on that bit.
Yeah. And if you just want to rate me individually,
No, don't
out
do
with
that. Don't do
the
that.
podcast, you can get in touch with me on my social media.
If it's a 1-star review for Paul, just email us with that. Don't put it on
Yeah.
Apple. What's it?
But that would be nice. And I know it's a bit of a hassle and a bit of a pain because it's something else that you've got to do in your busy day. But if you don't mind giving us a wee review and a rating, that would be much appreciated.
What I didn't get as well, I was listening to Diary of a CEO the other day,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is your Dragon's Den guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he makes a big plug at the beginning. If you like this, please subscribe. And Pete, I'm going to ask you one favor. I'm just going to ask you one thing. If you could do just one thing, I promise that I'm going to work tirelessly to make this podcast better. And blah blah blah. And he basically just wants you to do what you've just asked: is to like the podcast and subscribe or whatever, and that will make a world of difference. I'm like, well, he must be a multi-millionaire and already have probably millions of listeners.
Yes.
What difference does it make to him? How many? I mean, it is nice to have listeners. It is not. It's lovely to have the feedback and Facebook comments and the odd email that's not from spammers. But as I still stand by what we said originally, which was if a handful of people listen to this and either enjoy the banter or actually find from some of the mental health we actually talk about that it helps them, then I think, it's your words, we've done our job. So
no, absolutely. But then, if we're helping just a few people, it would be great if we could help more people, I think.
Are we helping
But
people?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're not harming them. So there's that.
Wow. You're not if you are harming them, it's their own fault because they could switch off.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, perverse torture if you're not enjoying it. But
I'm not enjoying it, but I'm just going to listen.
You listen to all the shit that we talk for hours and hours on end. Then that's on you. That's nothing to do with us.
No, that's, just press stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Speaking of pressing stop,
Let's go home.
let's stop.
Yes. Well, lovely to see you, Paul.
And you, buddy.
And yes, lots of exciting episodes coming up. And on that
Nice one.
bombshell, we've got less than a minute left. Let's wrap it up.
Okay, right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Let's start a podcast about our mental